The next session in the Future Ready Industry Week takes us to the roads unexplored by financial services and how to use technology to widen the net on inclusion. Are account aggregators, for example, a game changer in banking? Dr. Rohini Srivathsa, the National Technology Officer at Microsoft India, speaks to Anish Mathew, the Chief Executive Officer of CAMS finserv, and decodes the role of artificial intelligence and machine learning in banks becoming agents of financial inclusion by shifting from asset-backed lending to cash flow-based lending.
A warm welcome to all our viewers for Future Ready Industry Week for BFSI, Empowering Intelligent Banking. Over the last year, we have experienced dramatic disruption around the world. Every industry, companies are turning to digital technologies for resilience and agility needed to survive and grow. The urgency for entire industries to transform at scale has never been greater. In response, we at Microsoft have accelerated our efforts to support and co-innovate with customers and partners, both for today and for the long term, with industry-specific cloud offerings that can provide a launchpad for further innovations. Today, let me welcome Mr. Anish. Anish is the Enterprise Business Head for CAMS. Glad to have you as part of Microsoft Future Ready BFSI Industry Week, Anish.
Thank you, Rohini. Glad to be here.
Let me start with the observation that the financial sector today is really going abuzz with a new concept of account aggregators and its revolutionary potential. I'd like to take a step back and understand from you, what are the type of consumer needs or problem statements that the account aggregator concept is developed to solve?
There are two problems that is plaguing the end consumer, be it an individual or a MSME. One, while we have a credit bureau score system embedded in the loan management process, a lot of the people, lot of the MSMEs are outside the credit score system. They practically do not have a credit score. Now, over the last 4-5 years, there has been a tremendous amount of financialization, both at an individual level and at a MSME level. These are, powered by a lot of financial reforms, such as GST, which force the MSMEs to kind of onboard the, the formal financial platform. Similarly, the Jan Dhan account, the JAM Trinity, these are, reforms which have brought in people to the formal system, but they still do not have a credit score. Second is that a lot of these loan processes still remain paper-based. So if you or me, we were to go and apply for a home loan, not only do we have to submit physical papers of the property, but we have to submit our employment record, our ITR, our bank statement, everything in a either in paper or in a PDF statement. Now, this is a very insecure, prone to misuse way of submitting your financial information. It is also very cumbersome. Now, the account aggregator framework solves these two problems. One, for people without a credit score or MSMEs without a credit score, you can use their bank statement, bank transactions to create an alternate credit score. Second, for people to easily submit their financial information, which is an asset they own, the power of an asset, they can now do that in a very easy, completely digital manner, which is also fully secure.
Absolutely. And given that CAMS as an organization has more than 2 decades of experience in financial information aggregation and management, and in fact, CAMS finserv is one of the first licensees of account aggregator and ready to be operational, Can you give a quick overview of the framework, the account aggregator framework, and how will it benefit the different stakeholders in this ecosystem?
Sure. So the account aggregator framework conceptually by design has made the consumer as the king. The consumer can decide whether to share data, what data to share, and even after the decision is taken, let's say the consumer decides to share certain data, he still has the right to revoke the consent, post the consent. So it is embedded in the whole design of the account aggregator framework that the consumer is the owner of his financial asset information. So post the consumer, there are primarily two layers. One is the what we call as FIP, which is the financial information provider, and the second is financial information user. Now, financial information provider is any organization, regulated organization, which comes under RBI, SEBI, PFRDI, IRDA, which holds customers' financial assets. So it could be a bank, it could be a mutual fund, it could be a life insurance company, or it could be a pension fund. Any of these companies can be a FIP. The next set is the FIU, which is a financial information user, who is seeking access to this data for various use cases. It could be for a lending use case if the consumer wants a loan. It could be for a personal finance management use case where the consumer needs to know how his investments are doing across sectors, across categories. So multiple use cases. So now some of the FIPs can also be FIUs. Not all FIUs can be FIPs because they need to hold financial information, but a bank which can be a FIP can also be a FIU. And there is a mutual reciprocity principle adopted by RBI, where which is very interesting in the sense that an entity which is eligible to become an FIP can become a FIU only if they do become the FIP, which the RBI has designed so that it incentivizes all the service providers to join the framework and share data willingly.
Yes, that is that is a very good option that the RBI has chosen in terms of FIUs need to become FIPs as well. Absolutely, and I think clearly a lot of disruption is along the way. How do you think the industry is ramping up, and what might be the challenges you foresee as the market moves to adopt this framework in the next few months, and potentially your thoughts on what could be done to overcome those challenges?
The similarities to how UPI came up and how UPI ramped up is fairly uncanny, I would like to say. So if you would, go back almost exactly 6 years back is when UPI was launched, literally in April 2016. And if you go back to the account aggregator, the account aggregator platform was launched in September of 2021. So we are right now about 7 months into the ecosystem. It literally took UPI about 7 months before it hit a monthly transaction rate of 1 lakh, 1 lakh transactions per month. Now, if I were to take that and put across how account aggregator is doing, while we are still in the 7th month, first half, I think based on the current volumes, which are improving, obviously from a low base, we are likely to do probably about 50,000 transactions in this month. So if you look at it, yes, it is. The progress has been fairly similar. Having said that, account aggregator is doing that with about 8 banks which have gone live. Now, UPI did that with 21 banks live, practically the whole of the banking system live on day zero. Uh, so I would say the potential and the similarities to UPI is very clear and almost very similar parallel route so far in the first 6-7 months or so. Having said that, I would say, unlike UPI, we still do have a challenge because the participation as a financial information provider is still being very small. From the banking side, we do have 8 banks, mostly the private sector banks, the large private sector banks have gone live as a FIP. However, the public sector banks, none of them have gone live yet. Over the next 1 or 2 months, they would go live, which will take us to probably 15-20 banks, which will then be a good benchmark for the ecosystem on the lending side to evolve. The next big challenge for us is getting the SEBI regulated entities to become FIP, financial information provider. So if you were to look at other countries where something similar was attempted, one of the good examples is in the UK. While there are regulatory differences, what came out was that the PFM industry, the personal finance management industry, is definitely going to be the driver uh, to entice consumers to voluntarily come in and sign up for an account aggregator ID. Similarly, once the SEBI regulated entities come in place, what I or you as a consumer can do is get a 360-degree view of your entire financial assets. And that means people will voluntarily come and sign up. And that's the trigger which we are hoping will soon happen. And that will drive the industry adoption, I believe.
And that's very interesting because when the account aggregator was formally launched, it was called a UPI moment for lending, but you are saying that's actually much more beyond lending. That could be a real trigger. But before we get there, your views on the role of technology in this account aggregator ecosystem. How can technology enable the adoption, the innovation and growth in this ecosystem?
Sure. I would say, look, technology is at the heart of it. This is designed incorporating the latest technologies. So, for example, if you start from the paper-based process, here we are providing machine-readable data directly from the bank to the FIU or FIP to FIU, which means that information is completely trustworthy. There is no question of tampering with the data. Second, the information is also provided in a secure manner. Even I, as an account aggregator, cannot either view, store this data. It's an encrypted data for which the keys are only available with the FIP and the FIU. And the information is supposed to be destroyed after the intended and consented period of the data is over. All of this is driven by technology.
Absolutely, and that makes it so interesting and exciting, and the potential for innovation and growth in this space. You alluded to this earlier about personal finance, but I'd love to hear from you the short and long-term potential for this account aggregator ecosystem beyond what we've already spoken about, because clearly it is disruptive and clearly has very wide applicability.
In the short term, the lending, especially unsecured lending made digitally, will be the key driver of account aggregator adoption. Going slightly beyond that, the OCEN system is now almost ready. The MSME lending, again through the same platform, incorporating GST data, hopefully will be taking off in the next couple of months. That's a huge market in itself because, as you would know, the MSME sector has been starved of credit. And this is where cash flow based lending can really take off, especially for their working capital needs. Going beyond that, I explained the PFM data, but I would say that is, I would still count it in months, not years, probably a few 6 to 9 months away. And then there are obviously, once the GST pipe is in with the account aggregator, there are other pipelines or financial information providers which could also come in, including income tax return, IT department, etc. that could come in.
Great. No, I think this is a very transformative space, and clearly India is on the cusp of some major innovations. First of all, let me thank you, Anish, for joining this event. A wonderful discussion, and we really look forward to staying connected and collaborating with you on this transformative initiative that can potentially change the country's financial landscape. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rohini. Thank you for having me.